Hi, I'm Steve Harvey, Executive Director of the Transcendental Politics Foundation. I recently created an innovation that I call Transcendental Politics Pocket Parables. They are page-and-a-half long stories that illustrate some aspect of transcendental politics. At this point, I've composed 3 different parables, and then they are foldable into little packets of this nature that can be distributed and placed in a pocket or a purse or a wallet to be read later at one's leisure. I've cut and folded hundreds of copies of the 3 parables. So I thought I would read for you today the first parable, called the Parable of the Pebbles. There is a real world referent, not precisely this story, but a referent that inspired the story. And I will include a link to that in the comments section of the YouTube posting of this video, along with links to all 3 currently existing parables and the YouTube tutorial on how to cut and fold them into the pocket packets for those who are so inclined to join us in our mission in transcendental politics and to distribute these to help to increase our name recognition and associate us with the narrative of reality that we're promoting and working to share. So without further ado, this is Transcendental Politics Pocket Parable number 1. Following the disciple's question and the master's answer, the master and disciple walked into the village, looking at the ground moving slowly along the lanes, between the market stalls, through the fields, behind the huts. Villagers looked on curiously. Children began to follow the master and disciple. First 2, and then 5, and then a throng, looking at the ground as well, not knowing what they were looking for. More villagers gathered along the lanes and around the fields and in the marketplace, watching the master, disciple, and throng of children moving slowly through the village, their eyes fixated on the ground, looking for something. The master finally stooped down and picked up a single pebble, holding it to the light, examining it closely. Yes, this will do nicely. And then she resumed her slow passage through the town, her eyes once again fixated on the ground. The disciple and growing throng of children, now speckled with a few adults, did the same. In time, the disciple bent down and picked up a single pebble. She held it to the light and said, "Yes, this is perfect." And then she resumed her search. Soon the face of a small child lit up as she saw a pebble on the ground. She stooped down to pick it up as she had seen the master do, examining it as if for qualities only she knew to look for. "Yes," she said in a solemn lisp, "this will do nicely." By noon, the whole village had joined in the search, one villager after another stooping down to pick up the pebble of their choice. By mid-afternoon, every villager had at least one pebble in their hand, and many had several. The master turned onto a path that led away from the village, toward a nearby hilltop. She laid her pebble on the crest of the hill, and the others lined up to do the same, each laying theirs neatly alongside it. They all returned to their various tasks, but the villagers' minds mulled over the events of the day, the search for pebbles, the criteria each held but none discussed, and the solemn procession to the hilltop, where the pebbles were laid neatly on the ground. The next day, and the next, and the day after that, for many days and many moons, as children grew older, and adults grew grayer, and the master grew wizened with age, the master and disciple walked slowly into town, and then into the countryside, searching for pebbles, joined by the villagers when their chores allowed. Thousands of pebbles, millions, tens of millions were gathered from many miles around, from neighboring villages in which neighboring villagers joined the search, returning to the hilltop to lay them out, fitting newer pebbles into the crevices of the emerging wall of old ones, an impressive edifice forming, a sweeping parapet curling around the slopes of the hilltop. The master died and the disciple grew old, and generations passed. But the edifice of Pebbles grew and grew, new ideas emerging, villagers becoming architects, engineers, designers, all seeking to make this structure the most beautiful and inspirational that the world had ever seen. And they laughed and sang and told stories while they did so, shared insights and hopes and dreams, wondered together, worked together, and aspired together. When crops failed in one village and were bountiful in another, those who had plenty shared with those who had little. The teachers from each taught the children of all. People gathered to build one another's homes, to buy one another's wares, to assist in one another's times of need, and to share one another's good fortune. And the society prospered, not just in material wealth, but in other ways as well, in shared joy and shared sorrows, in shared good fortune and in shared hardships, in shared wisdom and in a shared fate. The stories grew richer, the knowledge greater, and the lives more satisfying, while a great edifice of tiny pebbles, lovingly gathered and fit snugly together on a hilltop outside a small village, grew and grew and grew. The disciples' days at last came to an end, and on her deathbed she recalled the conversation she had had with the Master that seemingly inauspicious day so long ago, just prior to that first stroll into town in search of pebbles. The disciple had asked the Master, "How will we build the temple?" The Master had replied, "One pebble at a time."